Right. Take it away, IndieSpace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Randi Berry. She, her are my pronouns. I'm the executive director of IndieSpace. Brea and Vashante, do you want to introduce yourself first, and then I'll go ahead and give some history on our work together?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Brea Clemons. I've been the programs manager at IndieSpace for the past 2 years. I'm going to be transitioning out of that role come the end of this month, and Vashante will be taking over those duties. I'll still remain on the board and very involved in the organization, though.
Hi everyone, my name is Vashante Brown. I use they, she pronouns, and yeah, I am transitioning into the programs manager board position in these couple of weeks. Yeah.
Thanks, Vashante and Brea. So I thought I would give a little bit of background on who we are as an organization, so it gives context for how we came into this work. We're not mental health providers, we're not licensed therapists, we're intermediaries and service organization and artists ourselves. So I think it's important to understand because it also puts a framework around how we were able to make this work happen fairly quickly without a ton of barriers, which I understand may not be the case for all organizations of all sizes trying to implement this work. So IndieSpace merged with the Indie Theater Fund in May of this year. I am a founder and the executive director of both organizations. So we finally came together. The origination of this work happened under the Indie Theater Fund's name, just so you have that background. But we were an itty bitty intermediary giving very small community-based grants, prioritizing historically excluded artists from the get-go. Our organization was established to address systemic inequities in funding and philanthropy, and IndieSpace was originally established to address systemic inequities in real estate and operation for theaters in New York City. So we had an emergency fund already that we operated, and on March 12th, when the theaters closed, on March 13th, we transitioned our emergency fund and started getting grants out to the artists that we serve in our community immediately with small micro grants for food and rent, knowing that most of the artists that we serve had 1 week of lost pay before they would be worried about food and rent. So we started getting grants out on March 13th, and we were hearing, in receiving those applications, we're hearing a lot of distress and concern and fear and upset from our people, as we all were, and decided with our very limited resources. We were, at the time, IndieSpace was about a $100,000 budget organization, and the fund was a $50,000 budget organization. So we were making do with very little resources that we had to try to serve the community. We were hearing that everyone didn't understand or know how to deal with being in isolation, and they needed to connect. We're in a live art form generally, and everyone was scared and wanted to figure out how to come together. And as a community organizer within our community, we decided to gather, and we had just enough resources to pay 3 facilitators to come in and hold space for our community and help them. The first kind of program we did was called a community care session, and it was about building your pod of community care. And so we worked with a representative from Black Lives Matter, a representative from the Audre Lorde Project, and then we brought in a therapist from the the National Network of Queer and Trans Therapists of Color. And we held a couple of sessions where people got to think through who they could depend on in their immediate circle while in isolation, who they could lean on for mental health support, who they could lean on for financial support if they needed to, and how they could reach outside of oftentimes being alone in their apartment and not knowing where to go or what to do. And the first session coincided with the murder of George Floyd. And so we were very careful to make sure that the space was held by practitioners of color and make sure that our Black artists were feeling especially cared for during that time. We also started giving small $1,000 unrestricted grants to Black theater companies that were also holding space and creating space for their community during this time. And those were really useful and often were and ended up being used towards the mental health programming that they were putting together just to bring people in community. So we continued on this community care pod session. We did a couple sessions or one session on somatic breath and body work. We did a session on meditation and how to meditate. And we were trying to figure out how to take this small amount of resources and spread them as wide as possible. But as COVID progressed, because we were getting money out to our community so quickly, funders and philanthropy responded, and we ended up having a lot more resources suddenly to give out. We were giving them out in emergency rapid relief grants, but we were also hearing from our community at that time that the group stuff was wonderful and they needed it, but they really needed one-to-one support. Not everybody thrives in a group environment, and also some of us were experiencing more deep trauma than others amongst us. So the one-to-one therapy became very clearly necessary, and also funds for medication were also important. We were hearing in our applications that people were cutting meds, cutting therapy to save money, or breaking meds in half to try to help them, last longer. So we started rallying for support around one-to-one grants. Brea joined our organization at that time and took this kernel of an idea that we had started with and has grown it into what I think is our most successful program. So I'll just let Brea talk more about what she's done to make it fly.
Thank you for that setup, Randi. So yeah, after kind of hearing from artists, and we also, during this merger process that we were going through, held a special committee of artists in the community that we had monthly sessions with, and they would give us feedback on our program ideas and kind of what things should go and stay in the merger. And a lot of feedback was around this like individual support, and how sometimes that in lieu of workshops and these group opportunities, they just need the funds to do the thing that they need to do for themselves. So, and thinking about how a full mental health program would function for us, we thought very strongly that 50% of the program should be us getting in grants to individual funds for people to use how they need for their mental health. So we started giving out mental health microgrants, $500 each to artists. That was started last July of 2021. And we did a lottery structure where we weighted and prioritized artists from historically excluded backgrounds. So that included our BIPOC artists, disabled artists, immigrant artists. I feel like I'm forgetting another. Or trans and gender nonconforming artists. Yeah. So we were doing monthly lotteries, open applications. So I was reviewing them all as they came, and then at the end of each month, we do a lottery. If your number wasn't pulled, you automatically rolled over into the next month's lottery, and you would just continue to get to be a part of the lottery process until you received a grant. And that was extremely successful. We've so far had 8 lotteries since 2021 and have given out 281 grants to artists. So, and that has been like our most like needed part of the mental health program, I think. And then the second part was continuing with these group cares. We continued to do community care sessions. We worked with Young Specific Beat to put together some more breath and body and kind of movement-based sessions, which were of interest in the community. I also started curating a monthly mental health newsletter that featured both online and in the 5 boroughs of New York City, free or low cost mental health events or gatherings that were happening. And then we offered to subsidize the cost of any that did have a cost for people to attend if needed. And then what I started doing this year, which has been I think, really well received with the newsletters is making each month very focused on a particular group of individuals. So and during Black History Month, we focused all of the resources and events to be around like Black artists, specifically showcasing and featuring therapists, Black therapists that worked with Black artists, had experience dealing with Black artists in particular. We did the same thing in June for Pride and featured a lot of trans and gender non-conforming resources and events that were happening, LGBTQIA resources in general. And I think that was very well received by our artists, of feeling like they were getting very specific care in these monthly newsletters. So our plan is to continue that trend and kind of each month find offerings that center a particular community. And then we've had some other different opportunities pop up as this program has grown. We've found new community partners that have come to us and said, I love what you're doing. This is what our organization offers. How can we work together? We've worked with a group called Collectus that does these creative accountability and coaching pods. And they've done a number of pods that were just for our indie theater artists, or helped sponsor seats just for artists at an extremely discounted rate. We've worked with Art on Site to do some company retreats. We've done lottery offerings of spa passes and yoga memberships, but things that are a little more individually catered have been the things that our artists respond to the most and ask us for the most. So that's where we kind of are with the program right now. We're really excited. We have 65 artists that have been waiting the past few months and are, rolling over into each lottery. And we're going to be able to pay all of them out come September 1st with some additional funding that we found. So we're just really excited to be able to continue to support our artists in this way. Mental health care is not something that's ever going away. And with the world being the way it has been, it's only getting more and more needed. So we definitely need more community partners and organizations doing this work.
I think Brea covered it really beautifully. This is the work that we're doing. We're very excited about this group of 65 artists. They've been sitting there and they've been weighing on my heart and mind every single day because we were out of money for this program. I will say this, there was a lot of excitement from, we're an intermediary. There was a lot of excitement from the funding community at the beginning of this program, and that has waned. And it's really disappointing and it's really upsetting because we needed mental health support well before COVID, certainly. But the last few years have been so taxing, and we're seeing philanthropy move in a different direction that is not as human-centered, and it's unfortunate. So the money we found we're moving Gen Op money around. That's the money we found. There hasn't been a new funder. We are taking money and we're making decisions about our operating reserves, which, we have to make decisions about as an organization. But this is how we started. I mean, I'm telling you, we started with we had only a few $1,000s to give away at the beginning of COVID. We had an emergency board meeting and our board was like, all right, we're all in. We're going to put it all in. And if we don't exist on the other end of that, at the other end of this, then we don't exist at the other end of this. If we're going to sit on our money, what's the point? What are we doing? So thank you, Kesha. That was really a very enthusiastic support. It made me cry at that board meeting. I was crying, but so we're moving Gen Op money around, but we want to reopen the application. I'm just saying for my colleagues here that it hasn't been easy to get people to stay focused on this work. But we think this is an application that should always be open. We think that we need to have a place for our artists to go 100% of the time and come back. By the way, some of those artists are repeat artists. We do allow you to put your name back in the pot. We don't give to you though until we've been able to cover everybody else. Everybody has to get one round and then we'll come back to you. But they're microgrants, $500, because Brea's done unbelievable research to find certain therapists that will take on a sliding scale a $65 session. We can get, a handful of sessions with $500, but you only start to get into the real work with therapy after 5-7 sessions. You're giving your whole history, you're getting to know. You also may have to switch therapists 3 times before you find the person that like lands with you in your heart, So we really think it's important that this is that we all have opportunities for artists to come to us and tell us that they're struggling. And we know that artists have to show up to the work as whole people in order to be able to do the work ever. So I would say that's a big challenge, and I want to be very transparent about that challenge. I'm hustling constantly to try to bring money into this program in order to keep it open, to keep the application open so that people know that they can come to us at any time. Over and over again. They need to be able to come to us over and over again. That's our overview. We'd love to talk if you have questions or want to have conversation with us about this.
Yeah, I had a question, Randy and Brea and Vashante. Thank you so much for sharing about this amazing work that you're doing. As people have noted, it's so necessary. And I'm glad that someone's finally taking a lead in providing these services. But what are the plans? You said the funding is waning. What are the plans to sustain it? And who are some of the funders that you've talked to or funded this in the past or looking to maybe have discussions in the future about funding it?
So the funders in the past that have given to this effort are Mertz Gilmore Foundation, which was an interesting one for us. They hadn't funded us before, and they focus primarily on dance, but we have so many crossover artists that work both in theater and dance or have a movement practice. So Mertz Gilmore was the first group to actually step in. JP Morgan, there was a private, like a family foundation that gave to us multiple times. The Morris and Alma Shapiro Fund also gave to us multiple times. And Mellon Foundation gave us a very generous Gen Op grant, which is why we decided, we had other plans for some of it because we thought and hoped that other funders would come to the table specifically for mental health. But we moved, we're going to be moving our Gen Op money around from this generous Mellon grant that we received. So what our plan is I'm putting it in every application that I'm working on right now. I do think that I'll get consistent annual support at the very least from the Morris and Alma Shapiro Fund. They're very interested in the work we're doing. Oh, excuse me. We also got a grant from Lori M. Tisch Illumination Fund in their mental health program. We were one of those 14 organizations. And so I'm hopeful because they're focused on, they're really focused on mental health support, that might end up being something annual as well. But it's a hustle every single year. Like this is the kind of thing that needs to be baked in as baseline support for our organization on an annual basis if we want to deliver to artists in this way and to individual artists, right? We give a lot of money, program money also to small companies. We're focused on companies with budgets of $250,000 or less, and helping kind of break through some of those barriers and make sure those artists are receiving money. But this is a way for funders to reach individuals that's substantial, that's impactful, that is important. So we're just putting out 1 million feelers, and I continue to do it, and we shove it into every application, whether it kind of fits in the application or not. That's just how we've been trying to, create a sustainable program. So much of this emergency funding, and programs that came out of the emergency, they came up because the financial opportunity came up for us. We're a small organization. That's the way we operate and have operated, the way all of the people we support that have budgets of less than 250 operate, which is we create the program based on the money that's in the bank, not the other way around, because there is no other way to do it, really. I mean, there is in a lot of our in-person programming and other things that work with artists in the community and connecting them to people and taking down structural barriers and opening gates and things like that. But the actual moving of the dollars, it's based on dollars in the bank. It's like, yeah.
Randy,
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether or not you all have ever considered approaching a foundation that was associated with healthcare. And the reason why I'm asking is because years ago, I did some work with, when I was in Charlotte, with a hospital, a foundation that was associated with the major medical center, and they ended up funding for years to the tune of $25K a year programs that were supporting artists.
I have not, but I got my pen out, I haven't, but it's a really good idea, yeah.
Yeah,
What we're really talking about is healthcare. This is healthcare.
That's right.
And that's,
absolutely
I think
is.
that's such an American disconnect, is that somehow mental health is not part of the regular health of your being. And so, yeah, I immediately thought the same thing. I was like, this is healthcare work,
Yeah.
which also is not a strong thing in this country, but
I was just going to say
for it.
One of the things that I was able to see is, first of all, these foundations, the ones that are associated with some of these major medical facilities, it's like they have more money than they know what to do with. And they are looking for, places where they can fit in. And I just had a really
and
great
call
experience.
themselves innovative, because
Yes,
look at this approach to healthcare, right? And I also think Sarah, you said mental health care is preventative health care. That's your pitch. Like, that's a really strong pitch, right?
Well, and it made me think too about NYU Hospital, because they're connected, right? And NYU, a third of our new members on an annual basis are NYU graduates, because they're here. They're artists that are starting out. I don't know. I'm making that number up. But every theater, we talk a lot with NYU or whatever schools there are in the city about what to do when you're starting out in the industry in our city. And so many young students are coming to us because we support artists with no budget, right? So I wonder if there's some interesting connection with NYU, Langone, like the medical community, that because we're also in service of the students that are coming from their school, like the, outside of the medical school. I'm gonna write it down.
I had a question about I wrote it down, coaching pods. Can I just, Brea, I'm sorry, did I say your name right?
Yes, you did.
Brea, thank you. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? I would love to hear, because we're doing a lot of peer-to-peer work at our agency, and I would just love to see a different approach. Or I love the name coaching pods. I just love it.
Yeah, so I haven't been in the pod myself, but what Collectus does is they offer their pod structure. I think they do like mini ones, which is like a 4 to 6 week structure, or they have longer ones that's like 8 to 12 weeks. But basically they have a space where each week you're meeting with your pod as a group. And you have this group as a resource to bounce ideas off of, hold accountability to tasks you gave yourself the prior week, and share project updates. Their normal pods are, I think, pretty open to like any individual that's like, you're trying to write a book, you're starting a new business, you want to pursue a master's, whatever your kind of goal is you're working on. And then the other part of their being a part of a Collectus pod is that you get one-on-one coaching sessions each week as well with one of the group leaders. So they're like, certified coaches, and they help give you feedback on whatever your project is, help you decide your next steps, direction, things like that. And then I believe you'll also get a variety of different templates and access to different resources and stuff as well. But for our artists, when they had our artists specific pod. I know a lot of them that were there were working on a new work development. They were writing something, things like that. And they found it super helpful to have other artists that were willing to read their materials and give them feedback in exchange for them reading their materials and giving them feedback. Yeah, and a place for community. And yeah, I think the accountability thing, because I know that even as myself as an artist, like a lot of people, so much innovation and new projects came out of the pandemic and being at home and having time, but also sometimes with everything being so heavy and hard and things pushing back against you, the having someone to be like, no, keep going, you got this.
Yeah. The community aspect and the, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was, how do we get started working again when we've been in isolation? We don't know how to get know how to get ourselves back up going again. So it pulled those artists out of isolation, put them in a virtual room, but in a room together, and gave them the feeling of connection that we normally get when we're working in space together. It's cool.
I love it. We have an artist investment program that my department created. This is our second year. It was a pilot program. And so I'm looking kind of to transform it. And I love this idea of pods that we had the same cohort of artists, and we funded and worked with them for 2 years. But I also really love this idea of, we're going to work together for 12 weeks on one thing. You're going to pick one thing, put them all together in a room with a facilitator, do check-ins. And then at the end, at least, even if it's just the beginning of whatever your bigger, I love that idea. 4 to 6 weeks and then longer 12-week ones. This is so good. Thank you.
I dropped their website in the chat as
perfect.
well. So feel free to take a look. And if they're a group that you ever want to get in touch with, I'm happy to connect you with Shiloh and Sarah, who run it. They're wonderful.
Oh, I love this. Their front page, it says go solo, but not alone. I love this.
Thank you for that, Brea. And before we've got some time at the end. If you all want to drop your contact, our presenters, you want to drop your contact in the chat, I think that'd be helpful. Sarah, I think you had your hand raised. If you have a question, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much. I'm taking massive notes here. This is so helpful. I'm from 3 Arts, and we ran our own emergency response grant program for artists in our network. And we are really interested in transitioning it to mental health services and support. And so I have a couple of nerdy questions and I don't want to dominate the time here. So if there are ways to connect with you all later, if I have too many questions, then I'm happy to do that. But one of the questions is really about like how you structure an application for this. Like Brea, I was so thankful to hear how you did the lottery and all that stuff, but what do artists actually have to answer or provide in the application? And do they are there criteria of how you define mental health that's eligible, using quotes here, and what's not? Like, how do you define all that stuff with your program?
Yeah, Randi, do you want me to answer, or do you want to answer?
Well, I'll answer one thing first, and then I'll let you go into detail about it. All of our applications for any of our grants take 10 minutes or less on your phone from the bathroom at your second job. That's the way we say it, right? So we never ask re-traumatizing questions. We never, we don't, none of our funding is merit-based. It's eligibility based, but we don't ask questions. There is no mental health kind of concern that wouldn't be eligible as far as we're concerned. If you tell us, we're trust-based philanthropy, right? So I'll let Brea mention specifically what we ask about, but that's a philosophy for any of our funding that we give out across the board. We did the Cultural Solidarity Fund too. We were the operator of the Cultural Solidarity Fund. And those grants were for rent, food, medical expenses, or healthcare or childcare. And we're very specific to ask very broad general questions. Do you plan on using this for? And check as many as apply: rent, food, health, so that there are not re-traumatizing questions or narrative necessary in any application.
Yeah, so as Randi said, we keep the applications really, can you hear me? Okay, keep the applications very simple, and the main criteria that we are checking for to determine eligibility is that you are based in New York, you're an indie theater artist, so that means you're doing the majority of your work in companies or venues that have 99 seats or less, or with companies that are performing at venues with 99 seats or less. And then that you're agreeing to you're using the funds towards a mental health need. And that, as Randi said, can be pretty much whatever you want. We have a question asking, a very general question asking what you'll use the funds for, but we tell everyone you don't have to dive deep, you don't have to unpack anything. It's just to get a general idea. And it also helps us because it gives us some information on what the community needs the most right now, like what other resources we can be giving based off of the needs that we're seeing consistently. And then the only other main question that we look at is our kind of our self-identification question, because that helps us prioritize the applications in the weighted lottery. But other than that, as long as people are checking the boxes of being an indie theater artist, being based in New York, and needing funds for mental health, they're going to get approved and entered into the lottery. So that, if that answers your question.
That's so helpful. Is the application visible to anyone else, or is there any way I could take a look at the application? Would you be willing to share how you frame those questions, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to. We temporarily closed the application while we were waiting to figure out more funding for it, but we've been using Submittable, but I think I can send you just a hidden link so that you can view it. It won't be like a Submittable tab, but you can just view the questions.
I appreciate that. And again, only if you're comfortable.
No, radical transparency is our #1 value. You can see whatever we've got, but fingers crossed it's going to be open again. If we are able to pay out, we just need our board to vote on something tomorrow. But if we're able to pay out all of these grants, we'll be able to reopen the application. So it'll be visible to everyone again soon. I hope. It's only been closed for a week, but it's driving me bananas about it. So I hope it's reopened very soon.
Can I ask one quick follow-up?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say one thing about something Brea brought up, which was so smart and was really important, is that we do get a lot of information, and we found that food scarcity, this early on, food scarcity and mental health are going hand in hand, obviously, right? But so it made it very clear to us when we were putting Cultural Solidarity Fund together that we needed to highlight food scarcity and make sure that it was explicit in our application. So sorry, go ahead.
Stephanie, I saw you had a hand up too, so feel free to jump in, and then I can, if there's still room, I'll follow up, but go ahead.
This is for Brea, and also Randi, the intentionality around the accessibility around the application. I mean, I love how it's like you're able to, fill out the application on your mobile phone, on a bathroom break at your second job. Immediately I thought that just says it all, how easy it is, But I was also wondering, so were there other, like, even further assistance, like technical assistance, like if someone is experiencing, or living in a food desert and don't know exactly where to go? Like, do you guys also identify service providers, because it's great. I mean, I'm just thinking, because I understand how to plan something very intentional, wanting it to be accessible. And then once it roll out, you have someone who need just a little bit more support,
Yeah, that was something that's actually been something that we were just discussing recently. So we kind of responded in one-off ways where if we'd have artists reach out to us and ask if we knew of any resources for X, Y, and Z, and then would answer or do the research on a one-off. Last winter, when we were going on our holiday break and we were closing the offices for 2 weeks, we decided that in our kind of out of office email that we would put together a resource list for things over the holiday breaks of where people could go for food or for shelter or for different free holiday celebratory events, community gatherings. So people had access to that while we were away. And then something that we were recently talking about was putting together these ongoing resource lists that are always available on our website that direct people towards housing access, food, things like that, that aren't services that our organization provides, but we know are needed, and try to get people connected with people that can help.
And I think it also comes down to a capacity thing, right? Like, because those resources were changing so rapidly, especially at the beginning of COVID, and being able for us to, I was a team of 1 at the beginning. Then we were a team of 2 with Brea. Now we're a team of 3, and it was hard to stay on top of it. But Brea's idea has been to just come up with ones that are stable, resources that are consistently available, and keeping those up and ready to go, which I love. I think it's so good.
Laura, I see your hand raised if you want to shout your question out.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Sherilyn. This has been really incredible listening to your work. I'm Laura from Center for Cultural Innovation in California. We're an intermediary as well. We administered several relief funds that were very similar to yours, lottery, same prioritized communities, weighted for BIPOC, immigrant, et cetera, trans. And I know we're a small staff too, and it was really difficult administering those funds mentally, emotionally for staff. And so I'm wondering, especially since your focus is on mental health, how are y'all taking care of yourselves?
It's a good question. And by being honest with each other, I think is like the best answer, by creating a totally flexible work environment. We're free to we have unlimited PTO. We take mental health days whenever we need them. My whole summer, Brea has helped me prepare, because the Cultural Solidarity Fund, we gave out 2010 grants, right? We gave it for food, rent, and truly it was just the couple of us giving out over 2,000 grants. I knew if I didn't take more time this summer that that was it. I was going to burn out. And I'm watching my colleagues drop left and right, like leaving the field altogether. It's really frightening. And so Brea and I have been talking for months. I'm like, Brea, I have to do like 50%. My mantra this summer is go slow, go slow. And we worked together on that. And she's transitioning this summer to a different role. And we were intentional. We talked about it very early. Brea helped bring Vashante into she made a training plan. That's how we're just talking honestly with each other about it. We don't have the resources. Like, one of the other groups, I think I mentioned this when we met initially, but in the Tisch Illumination Fund was Dance NYC. Everybody else used the money to grant out to other people or to provide services to other people. Dance NYC brought a therapist in for their staff. Yeah, and I was and Alejandra at Dance NYC is a very close colleague of mine and like my work wife, and I was just like, whoa, that was radical and amazing and honest. They processing so many mental health grants, and not mental health grants, emergency grants, and they were taxed and done and spent. And it was causing tension internally, and they needed their own support. They used their entire grant to provide mental health services for their staff, and I was blown away. It's a model. We did not do that. We did not do that. But we're not doing enough. So I appreciate your question, but I have been going slow this summer, and Brea has beautifully is transitioning Vashante, so that didn't fall completely on me. It hasn't fallen much on me at all, actually, which is amazing, so we work together to kind of prepare for that. Do you have anything else to say about that, Brea?
No, I feel like that's it. I mean, I think just the structure of how internally we work as an organization of making room to care for each other, and if someone needs a break, then the other person picks up what they can to help, and vice versa. And I think that's the main thing. I mean, I also think I went to some of the community care sessions, like participating in some of the workshops that we put together because they're great, and taking that time and space for myself as well has been helpful to me.
I also never stopped therapy. It was the one thing I did for myself I was in therapy before, but I was when we were working 18-hour days to get emergency grants out, I still stopped for an hour of therapy every week. And so it didn't feel like enough times. I needed a lot more, but yeah.
So happy to hear that y'all are taking care of yourselves. I would just like to share that I just came back from liquidating all of my sick leave, not all of it. We get a lot. I work for the state. And I was just like, you know what? I can't. Because I knew that if I wanted to stay in this position, that I needed a ton of rest. I just took August off. I just got back. Today's my first day back. Hey,
welcome back.
And I literally came back for this meeting, so I was like, I gotta go back on Thursday, not like right. And it's like the best decision I ever made. One, to come back, and then we're already talking about. I'm basically coming back from my mental health leave to this discussion. So just so thrilled that we're really, really focusing on our mental health because of how much of a heavy lift it is. I also sit on a board of a nonprofit organization because, that's what, art admin folks do. We love artists and I'm just listening to you talk, Randi, about how hard it was when it's just first it was just you. And then there was another person, and the executive director of the nonprofit that I'm the board chair, and she's burnt to a crisp. And I'm like, ooh, you got to lean on you cannot, this is not sustainable. And I think I see this is what it's like to work in a nonprofit, right? This is a cultural, yes, it's wrong. It can't, because it's
really bad.
It's really bad. I grew up in nonprofits. My mom was a grant writer. She's been executive director of several nonprofits. And it's like, you can't live like this. We can't. We just can't. We can't help others at the sacrifice to our own mental health and physical health. It's not right. They're like this, right? So thanks to whoever answered that question, because I know you guys are so focused on other people's mental health too, but yours is a priority. You can't pour from the empty cup, the whole thing, right? It is. No.
It gets lost a lot. It
does, because we love our jobs. We love helping people.
Right. And go slow is for this summer is a good thing. Stop altogether would be better, but we have to figure out.
Also, Randi, I bet your go slow is still a sprint for many people. So you know what I mean? Like you're like, I'm doing a half-assed job. And
I only have 4 meetings today instead of 9.
You're still working like 8 hours a day. You're like, I'm taking it easy.
Well, we all know we identify ourselves in each other,
Totally.
It's good, fulfilling work though. And I will say that my mental health my mental health has not been good thinking about the people that have been sitting without mental health support and with our application closed. So giving it and getting there is a boost emotionally, spiritually, and all of that. So we know tomorrow is going to be a good day because our board is a good board and they're going to say yes to whatever we propose to them. Manifesting also at the same time, but yeah.
All right, so we're coming to the end of our time. Before I thank you, are there any final notes you want to share? Randi, Brea, Vashante, I know you haven't been sharing. I know you're here to observe, but if there's anything you want to share, you can feel free as well before we close out.
Of course. When I was offered this position, this program was the one that was really at the forefront of all of the work that was being done, and is one of the reasons why I chose this organization to align myself with. And as Brea is transitioning out, and as we are, as we come into right after Labor Day when I start full time, like it is still really, really on the forefront of my mind. I truly believe that this work is so necessary. And if you have any more questions or anything, Brea, of course, is staying on in the board position, but you can also find me, my email, all of our emails are just our first names at IndieSpace. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Randy. Were you gonna?
No, that was it. I was just saying, yeah, you know, like I
Yes.
was using vocalization to, I'm excited about Vashante and our work together too. So I'm thrilled.
All right.
It's good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. We really appreciate you being here. As I said at the beginning, this has been our theme for the whole year. So it's really nice to have you coming into our sort of like smaller space of committee members, sharing the specifics of what you guys went through, what you did, how you overcame challenges, what you're facing now, from like a technical perspective, and then also like from a heart perspective. Like both of those are really valuable. Supporting your grantees, supporting yourself, giving really great examples. So we really do appreciate you being here today. So thank you.
I'm so glad that such a wonderful group of people are talking about this and doing their best to make sure that the largest group of artists and workers are reached as possible. So it's thrilling to me. When Lillian mentioned that you all were doing this work, I was so happy to hear it. So
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you.